course, the message, which is the title of this. Hey, Facebook. Hey, YouTube. How are you guys doing? So I've said for a while that I want to commit to going live more, so I'm going to go live more. And with that being said, if you are on Facebook or IG and TikTok, I can see your comments. Facebook, YouTube, I can't see yours. So if I'm not responding, that'll be why. But if you leave a comment, I'll come back and um, I will respond when I see it. All right. So anyway, to give you a little bit of context for those of you who don't know me, because I recognize that not everybody knows me, despite the fact that I show up on these platforms quite a bit, except for YouTube. I don't really be giving YouTube the love that YouTube deserves, but I plan on doing that. My name is Rhonda Gipson-Willis. I am a breakthrough coach. I'm also a licensed therapist, but don't try to book me for therapy because I ain't doing it. Anyway, I help women push past the shifts and the transitions with more peace, more wholeness, more healedness, more all of that. But what I've typically been more known for in these social media streets is that as someone who's over 50, I was recently divorced and from a relationship that I was in for almost 30 years. So that tends to be my biggest claim to fame on these internet streets. But prior to that, I was showing up, I was doing purpose, I was doing Facebook Lives all the time, and I've really gotten away from that. And I really want to get more obedient in terms of when things start coming up and I feel like I should share it, sharing it. For the most part, I've been doing that on TikTok. I'll do a random TikTok or I do a random Facebook post, but I'm really supposed to in this season be leaning into doing more. So I decided to show up more. And today I had this thought. And because I had this thought, I thought, let me share this with the people because somebody needs to hear this. And the thought was, it doesn't have to always hurt. It doesn't have to always hurt. And so just to give you a little backstory for those of you who don't know me, approximately 3 years ago, actually 3 years ago, this time is when I had just come from a 3-week trip with my then husband. We had gone through from northern Indiana down to Alabama, from Alabama to California. We stayed in this very lovely island on what was Catalina Island, and we drove back and spending all of that time together, right? Keeping in mind that it was the pandemic. We had a lot of conversations. We had some misunderstandings. We had some really mature conversations, and we really did a lot of talking about our relationship and how we wanted it to be and what we were not only willing to do, but able to do. And I think it's important to clarify that when you have a marriage that ends, right? Oftentimes people come in and they try to villainize one of the people, right? Somebody had to be wrong. Somebody had to have done something. I had somebody who commented the other day, was there any infidelity on any part, right? Because for her, that was the only justification, the only reason that somebody could leave a marriage. And I was like, really? Like God, the only reason that God would say that someone could leave a relationship that and don't get me started on these covenants of God versus a contract of the government. Don't get me started on that. But it's really interesting how people will come into someone else's life and try and dictate a narrative that's not the true narrative of what your experience is. And as I talk about not only my healing journey, but the healing journey that I help my clients through, right? One of the things that I emphasize quite often is you cannot allow other people to define your reality for you. You cannot live off of the hopes, the dreams, the expectations of other people, or else you will end up in a world of attempting to hit moving targets. When if you had only done the work for yourself, if you'd only really narrowed in what was appropriate for you in this space and time, between you and your God, between you and your children, between you and those people who love and care about you, you'd probably be far better off than attempting to appease people who are not really thinking about you as much as you think they are. For the most part, people aren't thinking about other folks as much as we think they are. Most of us are very myopic in our view. We view things through the lens of us. And so if we can remove ourselves from the expectations of others, we will have far more quality of life. Now, back to my topic, because the way that I talked this or I titled this was it doesn't have to hurt always. 3 years ago, so we have this conversation. We've made it back from our trip, and I'm just over and over, I'm thinking about how this is not necessarily the relationship for me. It's the relationship I've been in for all of my life. I didn't believe it was a relationship for him. I felt like he could probably represent himself better as a husband with a different partner. And I think we failed to speak about compatibility and capacity in the ways that we need to speak about it as it relates to relationships. But in thinking about the comment from that woman the other day, right? And I didn't think long about it because, again, I don't give those types of comments too much credence, other than to think about how often people stay settled in the comments of other people and how their lives are ruled by that. And when I think about the concept of it not having to hurt always, I think about how many people are stuck in situations or expectations where they are hurting far longer than they need to because of the expectations of other people. The expectations of other people. And I wouldn't say that I stayed in my marriage because of the expectations of other people, because there's a lot of reasons that I stayed in my marriage longer than I should have. And I believe for him there are reasons that he stayed longer than he should have. Oh snap, wait a minute. My thing's not plugged in, and you can't get far without the source. All right. So but there are so many people who are living miserable lives. Their lives are miserable because they're not living them on their own terms. They're living them on the terms and based on the expectations of other people. And I'm here to say that when you do the work of really learning who you are, because I don't care how old you are, you could be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. And I've had clients of those ages who cannot describe to me who they are. They don't know what their favorite things are. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they dislike. They don't know who they are outside of the expectations of other people. And if you don't know who you are outside of the expectations of other people, you will constantly sway based on the expectations of other people because you're not firmly rooted in who you are. And so to that I say, if you are not firmly rooted in who you are, you will stay in situations where you are often hurt, where you are often feel that there is something missing from you, from your life, from the expectations of other people. Hey, Facebook user, I don't know who you are. You said, good afternoon, Rhonda. This is a good conversation to have. Thank you very much. But if you don't know who you are, and the reality is that most of us don't know ourselves as well as we think we know ourselves. And if you are that much of an expert on yourself and you have not allowed yourself to do the process of evolving, you can get stuck in some old patterns that no longer serve you. The reality is that you shouldn't know yourself that very well, because you should always be evolving into the higher versions of yourself, the version of yourself that is suited for this season of your life. And when you allow yourself to do that, when you allow yourself to evolve, you recognize, I knew myself in that season. I'm not sure how I'm going to show up in this season. So let me pay attention. Let me pay attention. Let me get curious about who I am and how I am and what my life could be if I leaned into that. But what happens is, far too often we get stuck in these narratives about who we are and who we've been. We get so stuck in I know myself. I know myself better than anybody else knows me. And that keeps you stuck. And that when that keeps you stuck, sometimes it helps you perpetuate some old patterns that no longer serve you, that contribute into the pain lasting longer than it needs to last. Did anybody know what I'm talking about? Is this touching anybody in the way that you need to hear it? Because some of you are so stuck in these patterns of who you've been that is hurting the person that you are to show up to be in this next season of your life. And that version of you cannot be drugged into this version. And so for me, 3 years ago, I was anxious. I was depressed. I was on the verge of giving up everything 3 years ago. And things looked great from the outside in. From the outside in, people from the outside thought that everything was great with me because I was still showing up. I was showing up. I was doing lives. I was doing therapy at the time as a therapist. I was doing coaching. I was going out. I was speaking. I was training. I was doing all the things. I was bringing smiles to people's faces, and no one knew the pain that was going on inside of me. And a large part of that had to do with being in a space that was no longer serving me. Now, let me go on and address the people who are going to say that because of how I speak about my experience that I'm promoting divorce. I am absolutely not promoting divorce. What I am promoting is an assessment, a full assessment of your situation, of your life, of the spaces that you're in, of the people that you're connected with who are contributing to, how do I say, you not showing up as your best self. For me, that happened to be the relationship that I was in. And I would say that the same was happening with him, that his relationship with me, and we did the work. Like, it wasn't like one day after being together almost 30 years, we woke up and said, you know what? This thing's been great. It's been great. But you know what? I think we should upend all of our lives and just end it for no good reason. And it's really interesting to me how people who don't know your story will come in and try and dictate a storyline that's not your storyline. And how if you are not firmly rooted in who you are, you will allow the voices of people who don't know you, or people who claim to know you, or people who used to know the old you, to dictate how you're supposed to be. And if you are not in alignment with who you're supposed to be, because you're so stuck in who you've been, you will find that there will always be misfiring. Now, because I'm using alignment, I love using analogies and all of those. And I need to pay attention to the time because I need to be leaving in a little bit. But when you have, let's say you buy 4 new tires, right? Anybody ever bought 4 new tires? I remember I'm like, I'm not buying 4 tires at a time. I buy one for here, which one looks the worst. But anyway, when you get 4 new tires, they run great because when they put them in alignment. And if you are just driving and driving and driving and driving, and you are never rotating those tires and you are never aligning those tires, you'll find one day that you can no longer drive with your hands off the steering wheel. When a car has good alignment, you don't even have to have your hands on the steering wheel that much because it's going to drive straight. It's going to do what it's supposed to do. But alignments are part of maintenance. If you're not in alignment with your car wheels, you'll get in, they'll jiggle. Sometimes you got to fight to hold that thing together. You got to fight to hold that thing together. And sometimes that dictates that you have to go back and you have to get realigned. You have to get back in alignment. Sometimes that means you need to buy new tires. Sometimes that means you need to buy, what's the thing that supports the alignment? Because now I'm about to start making stuff up because I don't know anything about a car. But rock with me for a minute and pretend like this makes sense. Like if your alignment is off, does it mess up your suspension? And if your suspension is off, doesn't it rocks the whole car? And you can drive from A to B, but the drive is going to be rocky. Some of you are in relationships with yourself where you have not done alignments. You have not had the proper maintenance. You have not sat with yourself to assess the situation to see which tires need to change, what needs to rotate, what needs to move. And because of that, there is pain that you're dragging from the last season. You're attempting to drag into this season. It doesn't have to always hurt, but the thing that is the truth of the situation is you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to get dirty sometimes because to remove those tires, to shift those tires around, you're going to have to invest because sometimes you got to buy all new tires. Sometimes you got to get a whole new car. Sometimes you need to get out of the space where the potholes are messing up your alignment. Come on now. I don't know who needs to hear this, but don't let that analogy go over your head. Don't let it go over your head. Don't let it go over your head. Some of you have not done maintenance on yourself. You've not done the check. Your check engine light has been on and you have ignored that bad boy for years. Ooh, I'm talking to somebody. I'm talking to somebody right now. I'm talking to somebody. You know that something's not right. You know. And it could be that job. It could be how you're showing up in your life. It could be the friendship. It could be the relationship that you have with people that you barely know. It could be the relationship that you have with the people who are closest to you. Now, one of the assignments that I like to give, come on now, I messed up my camera. One of the assignments I like to give to my clients is I have them draw out circles Circles of support. Who is in your inner circle? Who is in your inner circle? And one of the things that people tend to find out sometimes is that the people in their innermost circle are not always the people who are the best for their mental and emotional health. Assess your circle. Assess your circle. Take a look. Take a look. Oh, you know what? I should probably be talking about my new program that I have, the Peace Blueprint. If you go to peaceblueprint.com, it speaks to a lot of what I'm speaking about today, because you have to have intentionality around your healing. Nobody stumbles on healing. You don't just sit and wait and then, one day it's just all good. And as I look back, as I look back on a version of myself from 3 years ago, right? Because Facebook is good about showing you some memories, and Google Photos is even better about showing you memories. So I have all the pictures, all the things that take me back to that place, right? Of remembrance. And then all of the things, like I'm getting close to the day that I decided. Then I'm getting close to the day that I told him. And then I'm getting close to the day that we had the blow up, because there was a blow up. Then I'm getting close to the day that, like, this is a month that could be significantly very triggering for me, but it's not. It's not a month that's triggering for me because I did the work, because I leaned in and did the work. I got a therapist. I got a coach. I went to those places that um, were causing darkness in my life, even when I didn't feel like it would work. And as a therapist and a coach, I have helped thousands. And when I say thousands, we're not being hyperbolic. I've helped thousands of people through their healing journey. But for some reason, I didn't think that it was available for me. I didn't think that it could work for me. But I showed up anyway. And so I'm here to tell you that regardless of where you're at, regardless of what you're feeling right now, regardless of what pain you have that you've not told anybody else about, regardless of how much you're suffering in silence, regardless of how much people come to you and you are the fixer for other people, if you don't do your own work, you will drag that pain from one season of your life into the other. You have to extricate it. Is that the word I'm looking for? That's the word I'm looking for. You have to be willing to extricate it. You have to be willing to lean in and do the work. You have to be willing to acknowledge that there are things that perhaps time has given you you space from, but it's never been healed. And time does not heal all things. I had somebody drop that on one of my TikToks. They said, "Oh, time heals all wounds." No, it absolutely doesn't. Some wounds get worse the more time goes. So when I say it doesn't have to always hurt, it doesn't. But you for darn sure. I sound like Coach Prime. You're for darn sure gonna have to do the work. You're gonna have to lean in and do the work. And if you're ready to do the work and you don't know how, follow me. If I have links in all of my bios that will get you to any product, any project that I mentioned, except for on TikTok. I have a series that I did that's for the TikTok people. But anything else, the Peace Blueprint is a wonderful place to start. It's a virtual program where you get 6 video lessons, and you also get 6 workbooks, and you get assignments, and you get coaching questions that will allow you to lean in and do more of the work. So let me see if I could put this in here real quick, because I want to make sure that people understand that it's available. It's available to you. You just have to be willing to do the work. And if you're not willing to do the work, you can only pretend for so long before the chickens come home to roost. You can only pretend for so long that you got it together. And ask me how I know. Because I was good at it. I was so good at it. I was so good at showing up and being great and serving the world and letting people know that, change was possible for them and your piece is available. And all, I was great at that. I was amazing at it, actually. It's part of my gift, which is what I understand and I recognize. But the thing is, I didn't believe that it was available to me. I didn't think that there was anybody. What I needed was, I needed a me for me. And I wasn't the me for me, but I was trying to do it on my own. I was trying to do it on my own. And what I found was that that did not work out. It absolutely did not work out. So I would like to really implore you as you go into 2024, which I cannot believe we are 30 something days from 2024. Like the end of the year is upon us. And I don't want to see that meme of the woman with the bag again, stepping over 2023, going into 2024 with all the things she go leave behind, because sis, you left the same shit behind last year. The same thing that you said you was leaving behind this year is the same stuff you said you were leaving behind last year. You got to do more than put up a pretty meme. You got to lean in. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. And ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. People see me, they see me showing up and I'm doing these videos and it looks great on this side. But what's that? Was it Drake who said you weren't with me when I was shooting in the gym? You weren't with me when I was in the lab. You weren't with me when I was in my therapist's office. You weren't with me when I was with my coach. When I was crying, when I was breaking through, when I was breaking down, you weren't with me. When I was pleading to God to please relieve me of this. A lot of y'all didn't see that. And I think I'm gonna start sharing more of that process, because I think it's easy for people to believe that because I went through that process, right? I experienced the divorce, which, people tend to minimize other people's traumas, and people tend to, particularly when you don't look like what you've been through. But trust, I have looked like what I was going through. I'm on the other side now. I could dance to TikTok songs. I could sing. I could do all the lovely stuff. But trust and believe, I went through some hell to get here, but I did the work. And we have to be intentional about doing the work. I lost friendships. I lost relationships. I don't live in the same place. I'm not around the same people. So you've got to be intentional about what you're willing to do and what you're willing to give up in order to have your healing. And I tell you, so part of what kept me in situations was fear. Part of what kept me in places that I wasn't supposed to be in was fear. And fear is prevalent, right? Hey, I can't see who you are who commented on this. I can't see who you are, but I'll comment to it later when I get off and I can. But you got to ask yourself, how much is fear showing up in your life? How much is fear holding you hostage? How much is fear keeping you bound to things that no longer serve you? As for me, I know that fear was significant for me. I know that once I started operating in faith, right? It doesn't mean that it's always easy. It doesn't mean it's always easy. Woo, I wish it was easy. I wish it were easy. But I used to have this shirt that said, faith has me out here living risky or something like that. Like faith will have you looking crazy. Faith will have you looking crazy. And if you're with people who don't understand, right? When you don't have that type of alignment, it will cause some issues. It will definitely cause some issues. And so I'll reiterate that it doesn't have to hurt to always hurt, but you're going to have to do the work. And sometimes doing the work means it's going to hurt a little bit more while you're doing the work. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. And I don't want to hear that you don't have time to heal, because you have time to pretend. You have time to placate to other people's feelings and emotions. You have time to show up for them. What would it look like between now and the end of the year if you really leaned in and did the work? You don't have to wait till a new year. And don't proclaim new year, new you when you ain't done nothing different. It does not work like that. In order for it to not always hurt, you're gonna have to do the work. And there is plenty of time between now and the beginning of the year to lock in a commitment to doing the work. Lock in a commitment. So as a coach, I encourage my clients to have therapists. I'm not trying to do therapy. I can do therapy. I'm not trying to do therapy. I have done therapy. But for my group coaching program, I love when my clients have a therapist, and then we can offer additional support and additional work in that process, because this is the season where if you really want to see the difference, you have to lean in and do the work. So that's it. I got it ready to go. It's been real. But yeah, so if you want to know any more, hit the link, rhondagipsonwillis.com. It has all of my links to look at any of the projects or products I've talked about. You can find them there. You can find my contact information as well, um, because it's time. This version of you should not be drug kicking and screaming into 2024. Believe me. Oops. Okay. So my mouse is escaping me. Hold on. I'm trying to end over here. So let me end here. Bye, y'all. All right. So I just ended on IG. And I can't find my mouse to let me in. Okay, there it is. My mouse is on my iPad, y'all. I guess it doesn't want me in. That's too funny. So yeah. Hey Jane, stop this crazy thing. There we go. All right. All right, so Facebook and YouTube. I'll see y'all later. The Peace Blueprint is available now. The price went from 297 297 to 249 to $97. And so it won't stay at $97 long. That was um my extra what's that day after Thanksgiving? Black Friday price. So get it now and watch it change your life. All right. Y'all take care. Bye. The Peace Blueprint.com. Oh, the stream's not ending. I'm still talking, y'all.